Incoming transmission.
The heavens have become a part of man's world.
Incoming transmission. Incoming transmission.
Tranquility Base, this is Houston. Can we get both of you on the camera for a minute, please?
Call me Jackson.
Devyn's mission log. Welcome back, everybody. I know it's been a while. Thank you for joining me here today. I really wanted to make sure that I got all the information correct for this one because it's kind of a big theory that has a lot of interconnecting parts. So thank you for being here and thank you for your patience. That being said, before I get on with the theory itself, I want to mention that this theory comes directly from the YouTube channel / podcast, The Y-Files. I first encountered the theory on there. They were the source for most of my information for this episode today. I did do some background research and I double checked some things, but aside from that, they are the foundation and I don't want to discredit them in any way. I'm merely the presenter. That being said, buckle up and grab some snacks because this is going to be a long one. What binds our universe? Like, when you think about it, what makes up our universe? What are all the interconnected and intricate parts that makes everything work the way it does? Mainstream science is going to tell you that it's gravity, it's dark matter, it's this, it's that. But when you get down to brass tacks, nobody, even the creators of this theory, really know for sure. But this theory, although it's got some faults, is something I feel like is worth exploring and worth talking about, just because of all the sheer coincidences that it holds. So, according to science, 400,000 years ago, hydrogen and helium floated around. Gravity pulled matter into bundles, which became stars. Stars into galaxies, galaxies to a cluster, and then supernovas populated our universe and made it how we know it today. And according to mainstream science, the universe was created and is controlled by gravity. But what if that's actually not the case? What if our universe, everything that we've ever known about our life here, is actually a lie? What if the entire universe was governed by electricity? See, our current understanding of gravity comes from Albert Einstein and his theory of general and special relativity. But there's a big issue with the theory itself, which Einstein was aware of. Gravity as a force isn't strong enough to hold everything in place, especially on the scale of planets and galaxies. With the amount of matter spinning around in any given galaxy, and with the speed at which it moves, everything inside should be falling apart and flying every which way. But it doesn't. So, to combat this, scientists gave it a label. The thing that's supposedly holding the universe together the way it is officially dark matter. The glue of the universe that's all around us. The thing is, you can't see it with your naked eye. And dark matter is something that scientists can't actually prove exists. Dark matter is more of just a theory that is used to fix the gravity issues, because at this point in time, we can't say for sure any which way. But maybe it's because we're looking at this all wrong. Maybe gravity isn't the force that binds our universe together and keeps everything in place. Maybe, like I mentioned, it's electricity. According to the electric universe theory, it says that all throughout space is a vast network of ionized particles. These particles create an enormous field of plasma. Plasma is the fourth state of matter, after solid, liquid, and gas. And plasma is everywhere. Our sun is made up of plasma. 99% of the visible universe is also plasma. This network of plasma is so massive that it is proposed that it contains the entire universe in a single electrical circuit. This circuit transmits electricity over great distances, but it also does it faster than light. So if this theory is true, it would change everything we've come to know about physics and the universe itself. And the evidence to support it is all around us. Through the efforts of archaeologists, we have found threads of evidence from our ancestors that could suggest the night sky used to look a lot different. A swirl of glowing plasma that scattered across the sky. But then, a drastic cosmic event, a catastrophe, changed our sky forever, leaving behind marks on our planet and our entire solar system. Look at the Grand Canyon. One of the most iconic landmarks in the entire world, attracting millions of tourists to it every single year. A place of pride for Arizonians. A national park. But what made the Grand Canyon? Geologists claim that it was a series of tectonic events and natural erosion. But it doesn't really look like that, does it? In fact, from above, the canyon seems like it flows and branches out, not like water, but much more like electricity. Electrical cosmologists pointed out that from above, the Grand Canyon and its rivers break and flow like that of a current flowing through electronics. The tributaries split at very odd but consistent angles, 90 degrees here, 130 degrees there. These electronical cosmologists, many of whom are electrical engineers, also noticed that the Colorado River that flows through the canyon follows properties for an electrical circuit in terms of its structure and its various junctions. Now, if this theory is true, that would make sense. The universe would be an ocean of electricity, but doesn't that mean you would see it just flying through the air? Well, when you think about it, you don't see electricity when everything is working properly. You don't see the currents traveling from the light switch to the bulb. But what happens if the electrical balance of the universe gets thrown off? Electricity and lightning would shoot from planet to planet, leaving behind marks on everything they touch. Maybe the reason why the Grand Canyon is so deep and prominent, and maybe the reason why its breaks and currents all follow some sort of electrical property, is because this is the very thing that happened. This would also explain why Mars and virtually every other planet in our solar system have long canyons/valleys on their surface. The bolts of energy would have shot out in all directions and latched onto any objects that can contain electricity. Mars has the Valles Marianas, a huge gorge that spans the length of the entire United States. One of Uranus's 27 moons, Titania, also has a 1,000-mile-long scratch on it. Both of these canyons, or scratches, or whatever you want to call them, have very similar structures to that of the Grand Canyon, with the same breaks and flows that also mimic electrical currents. Pluto, Venus, and many other planets all have these gashes on their surface. And yet, mainstream science tries to explain it away as tectonic shifts and erosion after millions of years. We have documented evidence to prove that catastrophic events recorded by our ancestors have changed the way the world looks, everything from our sky to even causing the Great Flood. Now, I mentioned this in my hollow moon theory, but every continent on Earth has a flood myth. Atlantis, Noah's Ark, the ending of the Ice Age, they're all referring to the same thing. Every single one of them all takes place around the same time period, which was over 12,000 years ago, a period that is known as the Younger Dryas, a period in which scientists have confirmed that the ice caps, which were much larger than they are now, rapidly melted over the course of a week, flooding the world and changing its landscape forever. There would have been tsunamis thousands of feet high, and the sea level would have been raised by hundreds of feet. All these myths and stories point to ancient deities and gods punishing humanity or raging war on each other in the heavens, thus causing the flood. Now, all those myths and stories details things about our history that go against mainstream science. According to our ancestors, the night sky, on top of being covered in plasma, was dominated by the presence of Saturn. At this point in time, Saturn was our closest planetary neighbor, so close that it was a binary star system. If you were a human living at this point in time, the night sky would have looked like one from a science fiction movie. Electrical cosmologists believe that the flooding could have been due to some sort of electric blast that could have caused the flood. Ancient legends tell us that when two of the planets started to break apart from each other, it caused massive devastation. And, to quote the Y-Files here, all hell broke loose. Saturn, long ago in our history, was one of the most important objects in the sky. Human and ancient civilizations from all over the world wrote and created myths around the planet. The Egyptians said that their creator, their god, Atum, was from Saturn, which would have been at the celestial pole, the axis at which the sky turned. The Babylonians said that their god, Anu, was from the pole star, but the pole star was Saturn, because at this point in time, Saturn and Earth were linked in that binary star system. Saturn was locked in its position to Earth, and together they would have rotated around the sun. Saturn was fixed much like the moon is today, and would have dominated the sky. If that's the case, it would make sense why ancient civilizations would begin to idolize and worship the planet. And it wasn't just the Babylonians and the Egyptians. The Greeks and the Romans also referred to Saturn as a sun god that reigned over a lost paradise. The original Latin name for Saturn was Sol, or the sun. In Greek, Saturn was called Cronus, or Helios, the sun. Ancient texts from Greece, Persia, and China all cite Saturn as a god that ruled over the entire world. The original site of Rome was known as Saturnia. The Jewish Sabbath was Saturn's Day, which would later become Saturday. Popular Roman festivals honored Saturn as the father of the gods. Scientists were confused. Why was it that so many ancient civilizations would be so influenced by a planet that was so far away? But that's because it wasn't. All these stories, myths, and legends act as proof that Saturn was tethered to Earth. Even more evidence of this can be found in ancient hieroglyphics. All over the world, you can find drawings of what's known as the cosmic wheel, depicting two circles, one inside of the other, with lines connecting the two all around the smaller circle. Sometimes this is also shown with a third circle just off to the side or inside the shape to some degree. It is theorized that this was a depiction of what the night sky actually used to look like, with Saturn dominating the sky and Mars separating the two giant planets. These wheels can be found all over the Earth, from the mountains of Arizona and California to Mexico, Africa, Ireland, the Mediterranean, and Mesopotamia, just to name a few. All of which are capturing the exact same thing, with very small differences. It is said that during this time, when Saturn ruled the sky, it was a golden age of humanity, where the light that radiated from these planets washed over the Earth and allowed humans to live for hundreds or even thousands of years, which is referenced in the Bible and ancient myths around the world. But then, everything fell apart. This is when all hell broke loose. Most of these ancient myths and stories tell of how the Golden Age ended abruptly and in catastrophe. Gods fighting amongst each other, wars raging in the heavens, and people of Earth helpless to do anything but watch in fear. But you know what's really strange? What is the favorite weapon of the gods? A thunderbolt. Lightning. In Greek mythology, Zeus uses a celestial thunderbolt to fight the titan Cronus, Saturn. In Roman mythology, Zeus was named after Jupiter, and Jupiter was at war with Saturn. Not to mention the arrows of Apollo, or the trident of Neptune. All of their weapons are connected to thunderbolts in some way. Thor wielded the power of lightning. Seth, the Egyptian god, caused thunderstorms and weaponized lightning. So what if during these ancient wars, humans were watching huge thunderbolts jumping between planets and interpreting it as a war between gods? After all these gods were named after the planets that were in the night sky every single night. But what could have started this war? Why were the planets behaving so strangely and causing huge storms of plasma and thunder? What's with all this light? It's all because of the planet Venus. Remember that third circle I mentioned just a little while ago? The one from the cosmic wheel? Well, that would have been Venus. The largest circle was Saturn. The middle one, sometimes depicted as being outside of the wheel, would have been Venus. And the smallest one would have been Mars. At that time, Venus was a ball of fire and plasma. It shone bright in the night sky and it would have looked like a mini sun. That's what was shown in all the drawings of the cosmic wheel. Those lines, the spokes, would have been beams of light. And the myths from that time also reflect gods associated with Venus, being birthed by Saturn and shining a bright light. Athena, Isis, and others were associated with the planet Venus. Now, the disruption that caused the Great War of the Gods most likely would have come out of the planets drifting too close to each other. Like I mentioned earlier, you don't ever see electricity unless something goes wrong with its current. These colossal structures moving close together would have disrupted the electrical balance, and huge bolts of lightning would have shot out between them, carving huge craters and marks on the surfaces. That's what caused the Grand Canyon, the Valles Marineris, and the huge gashes on the other planets. From this event, life on Earth would have been almost completely wiped out due to the floods and the rapid heating of the Earth's temperature. Now here's where it gets even weirder. The cosmic wheel that I spoke about earlier was identified by electrical engineers as being very similar to that of an electrical discharge when viewed from the right angle. Why would something like the way planets align themselves and the depictions that people drew of this alignment match something as complex as electrical discharge? Well, if the universe was bound by electricity, it would make sense that its effects could be seen naturally in the galaxy, and in the marks it leaves on planets from electric discharges. That could be why the Grand Canyon and other gashes like it on all the planets share similar shapes and properties despite the planetary conditions of each one. Now, along with the cosmic wheel, scientists and archaeologists have also found cave art dating back as far as 1700 years ago, before the Younger Dryas, where the Earth was hit with huge bolts of lightning, depicting what was first thought to be humans. All these drawings show what appears to be a stick-figure man with arms outstretched and their legs looking like they were squatting. These drawings also share the detail of two dots or orbs on either side of the person, underneath the arms. But it doesn't make any sense. Cave paintings from that time and before show far more complex and detailed drawings. Cows, mountains, suns. Yet all these drawings of men looked crude and poorly done. Well, it's because it wasn't a man. These drawings, found in Arizona, Armenia, Spain, France, Hawaii, and even Italy, among other places, were depicting something far more complex, the best way they could. Anthony Peratt, a plasma physicist, created an animation of plasmic discharge. From the side, the shape is exactly like what is depicted on the caves all around the world. The reason for its shape, and the reason why we see these men on all the drawings, is because during these electrical and plasmic discharges between the planets, they would have seen these denser parts of the plasma shining in the sky, hundreds of miles high, standing there like a god. The shape is oddly human, and they would have wanted their offspring to know about when their god came down to visit them, because these plasmic discharges would have been loud, bright, and violent. To them, it would have literally looked like a god, causing storms and destroying the earth. After the god's war ended and the planets drifted apart, they would have taken their current place in orbit, giving us the sky we know today. Now, all of that is a great story and everything, but none of it definitively proved that the universe is electric, and that this is what actually happened. We would need proof of electricity governing our universe for this to be taken seriously into consideration. And son of a bitch, someone proved it. A group of scientists in Canada, under the project name Sapphire, began experiments trying to test the probability that the universe is actually governed by electricity and not gravity. Using special equipment in their lab, they were able to make a baby star, much like that of our own sun, a star that shared many properties with the sun, without using any nuclear fusion or gravity. This was done only with electricity. Mainstream science says that's impossible, and they've yet to acknowledge these feats. But that's partly due to the project managers themselves. They're extremely private with all their research, and so we can't say definitively whether or not these experiments are being done correctly. They haven't even been peer-reviewed, so take this bit with a grain of salt. Regardless of the backgrounds, it was supposedly accomplished, and if harnessed correctly, this energy could be used to create clean, free power for everybody on Earth. Nikola Tesla believed in it, and also believed that the universe was covered in plasma, that electricity used as a medium to travel great distances. He referred to this field of plasma as the ether, and it was said that he was experimenting with ways to harness its power. That's probably how he was able to power a light bulb that was held in his hand without using a single cord. It was also theorized that the Egyptians, or their ancestors, tapped into the power of lightning by using pyramids as conduits to capture electricity and spread it throughout their civilization. Now, the electric universe theory has also explained quantum entanglement. Quantum entanglement is when two particles, entangled to one another, react to each other's state simultaneously despite the distance. Einstein hated this because to him, until we could figure out why the particles were able to do something like this, quantum mechanics would never be fully complete or understood. To give you an example, particles are weird. They know somehow that they are being observed and change their state once they know someone or something is looking at them. Until that moment, they are in every state all at once, kind of like Schrodinger's cat. Until you open the box to observe the cat, it is both alive and dead, right? Well, that's basically the same with particles. So, if you have two particles that are entangled to one another, once you observe particle A, then particle B will know that particle A is being observed and do the exact opposite, even if we never look at particle B. So if you observe particle A and you see that it's spinning clockwise, when you look at particle B, it will be spinning counterclockwise. And it will begin to do that at the exact moment that particle A does. Sounds simple, right? Particle A does something and particle B does the exact opposite, but they do it at the exact same time. Well, it's simple until you remember that Einstein said that nothing in the universe could travel faster than the speed of light. Nothing. No bit of information could travel faster than the speed of light. Well, what happens if you put a distance between the two particles? Surely they would slow down to match the speed of light since it is the fastest measurement of speed in the universe, right? Nope. If I take particle A and put it on Earth, take particle B and put it on Mars, the moment particle A selects a state, let's just say counterclockwise, then particle B at that exact moment will do the exact opposite and spin clockwise, despite the fact that it would take light minutes to reach Mars. Light itself has nothing to do with the equation in this instance, but it gives you an example of the speed. These changes are happening instantaneously, which should not and could not happen unless the electric universe theory was correct and the particles were using electricity to communicate to each other, traveling through the galaxy using the ether at a speed which we couldn't even fathom. Because if we do the exact same experiment with the particles and place them on Earth and then in another galaxy 2.5 million light years away, the particles will act the exact same. They coordinate with each other and react to each other's state instantaneously. They are able to communicate at a speed which is faster than the speed of light, because it would take light 2.5 million years to reach that distance. And this just can't be explained in any other way. If we're looking at the electric universe theory as a substitute for a law that governs our universe, that redefines the laws of physics, it could be very beneficial. Through it, we can learn to harness the power of the universe, a power that Nikola Tesla himself was trying to reach 100 years ago, a power that we used to have over 12,000 years ago, a power that could be used to give free energy to millions of people. But at the same time, it comes with a lot of stigma. This is considered a fringe theory. And because of a lot of people doing work on this theory and putting experiments into it, like the Sapphire Project, it makes it hard to trust the credibility of any one of these sources and the facts themselves. So just looking at it as a theory, I think it's a very interesting theory. It could help us understand a lot of things about the universe, quantum mechanics, and space that we don't fully understand right now, especially when it comes to quantum entanglement, or how to move faster than the speed of light. My only issues with this theory personally are when it pertains to gravity itself, because gravity is what supposedly controls the universe. It governs the universe. It's the reason why time moves the way it does. So if we were to substitute that with electricity, what would that mean for us? What possibilities could come out of this? What outcomes could come out of this? I don't know. Maybe it's not for me to know or for me to figure out. But I wanted to present this theory to you guys. So, thank you again for tuning in. If you want to hear the full version with more in-depth detail, go check out the Y-Files episode on this specific subject. I'll link it down in the description below. Until then, I hope you guys enjoy all the episodes that we have out for you this week, and thank you so much for your time. If you want to debate on this theory, go ahead and hit me up on the Instagram and then we can have a discussion there. But until the next one, I hope you beautiful people have a great rest of your day. Take care.
This concludes the transmission.